Good morning. My name is Patricia George. I'm an adjunct professor of psychology at USC and a professional speaker on the science of happiness. Whenever I say that to people, they always say science of happiness, like it sounds like some super fluffy topic or something like that, but it's not. Happiness is based in research. In fact, researchers have been defining happiness for hundreds of years and trying to find out what is the secret to happiness, right? Even in the Declaration of Independence, we talk about the pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? So we are all very focused on our happiness, especially in current times coming out of COVID. So researchers have found ways to actually define happiness, and there are a lot of different definitions of happiness. I have my own favorite definition of happiness, which is the 3 P's. It's pleasure, passion, and purpose, which I'll explain more in a future video. I just want to introduce myself right now briefly. So we measure happiness, we define happiness, and then we measure happiness so that we can look at different people around the world, around the country, and we can really understand what's going on for people in terms of their happiness levels. And there's actually like a World Happiness Report. People always laugh at me when I say, oh, I just read the World Happiness Report. It's a real thing, trying to understand which nations are the happiest and trying to understand what makes them the happiest, why are they so happy, and what can we do to be more like Finland, for example, which, is consistently in the top 3 of the World Happiness Report, right? People always like to tease me like, oh, one person asked me, have you read the Book of Joy? I'm like, I have read the Book of Joy. And then they burst into laughter and said, is that a real thing? Yes, the Book of Joy is a real thing. And yes, I have read it. It's a pretty good, pretty interesting book with the Dalai Lama talking about the pursuit of happiness and what that looks like for different people and what it should look like. So why does it matter? Why does talking about happiness matter? Well, it matters because we know what the statistics are. We know that people overwhelmingly are struggling with being depressed, anxious, substance abuse, eating disorders, all of these really negative psychological disorders, which is another class that I teach at USC, abnormal psychology, right? And we know that people are trying to be less anxious and less depressed. And my perspective on life is always, instead of looking at the negative, right, we want to look at the positive aspect. So instead of being less depressed, how can we be more happy? Which kind of brings me to my next point, which is that happiness is really a skill, and that there are things that we can do on a daily basis in order to increase our overall happiness levels. So we know that there are things that we can do to make us happier, but we also know that we have kind of this baseline level of happiness for most people, very comparable to our weight. So most people, we have like a set weight, and if we work out and watch what we eat, we can change our set weight. And if we don't, then we generally are around the same level of weight. It's kind of the same with our happiness levels. So happiness has been shown to be about 50% genetic, which I think is really interesting. They've done twin studies in behavioral genetics to find out that we really do take after our parents when it comes to our preset levels of happiness. So I think that's all so fascinating, and I can't wait to share more information, more details with you about happiness and about how we can achieve happiness, how we can identify our own happiness, and what strategies and techniques we can use to further pursue a higher level of happiness. Have a great day.